Alright.
Alright, quick test. That should be good. Thanks.
Alright.
Now, I don't want to create a group DM Discord.
Alright. Oh, hi, it's Opine PanAnning, welcome you back to Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. We got the trial here.
It's been some time for us.
Shut up. Don't. Anyways, let's continue on.
My sis?
I could have sworn I've heard Mia's voice.
So then, she's still alive inside your heart.
Sneaky boy!
Oh, Mr. Light.
Is it true that Detective is the real killer?
To be honest, we don't have any definite proof, but he's the only one who could have done it.
But wasn't he a lordly tailor that night?
Not to mention, we don't exactly know his motive. I mean, why would Detective Edney want to kill Kate Bullard?
Oops, it's almost time. Better get back to the courtroom. I need to find some solid proof, and it's gonna happen sooner rather than later. Oof. Now then, this court is back in session. Mr. Look at me, please take the stand. Well, how did you do, said lawyer? I never would have thought I'd see you acting so recklessly. I couldn't let them hand down your verdict just yet. Not when it would have given your perfect alibi. An alibi by the nature of name of Master the Mask. I'm sorry. I'm afraid that even a great look at me has no idea what you mean. Of course, I've been in the next courtroom ever since 10 o'clock this morning. I'm afraid there is no way I could have known what has been going on in here. You have been in the defendant's seat all day long, correct? Being tried as Master the Mask. Indeed, it's truly a child's play to fool the ignorant masses. Not only did the poor folks that asked me to protect their valuables, they even give me a generous reward upon returning to their own property to them. Take this red diamond ring that sparkles upon my divine finger, for example. So you continue to insist that you are, in fact, Master the Mask? Of course. Very well then, look at me. Let us begin with this simple question. On October 12th at 1 a.m., Kane Bullard was murdered. Where were you at the time? One without knowledge and that lacks even the knowledge that he should be ashamed of himself. But don't worry, I will not hold it against you, Sir Judge. Thanks.
Alright, Mr. Atme, the night of the murder. Speak. We're listening.
As you wish, Sir Prosecutor.
I don't wonder why they didn't just confiscate that ring, but anyways.
I was stealing the urn the Master the Mask, just as I announced I would. I had more than enough time to prepare it. It was a pathetically easy job. A photograph contains no words, but in this case, one turned out to be my witness. The time at which the camera captured Master the Mask was the same time as the murder. I am so cunning, yes. It seems that the main point of discussion will be in the photo of the crime scene. Everything else up until now was all part of his plan. There has to be a secret to this picture as well. Even the great Master the Mask could not be in two places at once. Now then, if you will excuse me, I have a verdict to receive. Hold it, damn it. Unfortunately, Mr. Atme, we still have to do your cross-examination. too foolish to know what he is a fool. Ah, I miss that whip
I think
wielding.
he's trying to say that you're full of it, Nick, and also he's also trying to imitate Von Karma.
I miss that, Francisca. Oh, my lovely idol. The only thing that is full of it is his shit and alibi. Uh, fucking A. Just announced that I won. More than a pathetically easy job. Hold it. I believe Adrian Andrews hired you at one point. That is right. That was over 20 days ago, if I'm not mistaken. You sent the calling card to Lorelei Taylor 10 days before the heist. That would mean you sent out the card after you began your security watch, right? Indeed, there was no reason I couldn't do both jobs at once. It was the perfect opportunity to steal my latest target. I see. You truly are evil, aren't you? Yes, evil is what I am.
Hey, Nick, isn't there something odd about this?
Hmm?
Detective was always proud of his ace detective skills, right? But if the urn was stolen from Lord Darrow while he was the only one watching it, you know, no way to maintain his perfect ace detective persona.
You know, that's true. It is kind of odd. Hmm. Press those two. So by photograph, insert usual joke there, you mean this piece of evidence here, is that correct? Indeed it is. That is it. The very thing that proves that I committed the crime. The very thing that proves you committed the crime? When you think about it, it's really odd. You say that it's almost as if you had this picture taken on purpose.
He was simply caught by the very camera that he had set up. We all have days like that.
Indeed, it turned out that there was no such thing as a perfect crime after all. Life is truly an ironic thing, a sad blue melody. It looks like I'd better gather more information for now. If he's truly the killer, there's gotta be something phony in that photo. Interesting. So how do I press this? Hold it. Hold it. About the camera that took this photograph? Oh, come now. It's all too clear what you're thinking. Huh? You think I altered the timestamp on the photograph, don't you?
I'm afraid that's impossible. The camera was set up by Lord Lee Taylor, and on top of that, it was Lord Lee Taylor's staff that printed that picture's data. Unfortunately for the defense, there's no way that picture could have been altered.
I see. Looks like I better find something else that could be suspicious.
So, this alibi is false?
It has to be. Or he couldn't have killed Mr. Bullard at KB Security.
I'm not really spotting anything unusual.
There are two possibilities. Either the mask in the photo is a fake, or the photo itself is.
I forgot how you proved this one, but I think we're looking to prove that there is no date mentioned in that photo.
So this photograph is the proof, correct? Indeed it is. And the man in the photo is certainly wearing a mask. That's why I'm called Mask Not a Mask. But conveniently, that also means that there is no way to tell who this really is. But what do you mean?
Ha! Are you saying that this is not in fact Look at Me? They could be an accomplice dressed up as Mazdar the Mask to create an alibi?
Oh, what an interesting idea. Are you saying that I, Lone Wolf Luke, had an accomplice? No, You didn't have one, dude. Look at me was the KB security during the murder. That messed up the mask in the picture has to be a fake.
Then there really was an accomplice.
But right now, I don't have no idea who it is.
I don't have any idea right now either.
Baseless objections are just what the guy wants. There's gotta be another way. I'm going to find it. I think I have to press a certain statement twice, and I think it's the third one, actually.
Could be.
So, photograph. I'm just gonna skip this because I've already read this. Everything that proves you committed the crime.
Surely even you understand by now.
Well, he provided the camera, and there's no way I could have tampered with it. That means I could not have killed Kane Bullard unless I had an accomplice. Come on, think long and hard about that night. The basement warehouse, and this picture that supposedly captures it. It's got to be here. Isn't there something funny about this picture? Yeah. You bet there is.
There's actually something that should be there, and it's not.
Are you implying that the picture's a fake? You bet I am. There's definitely something strange about this picture. We took a look around the basement warehouse that night before the theft took place. And there is something that in this photo that doesn't match my memory of that night. Very well. Let's then hear what you have to say. What is about this photograph you find funny? It's a funny photograph, that's for sure. It's the paint splotch.
What should be a pink paint splotch, but you know.
The funny part is right here. Why, this is a blood stain. Ah, blood! Now this case is getting interesting. Not exactly. The stain is actually pink paint. Oh, just paint. And peach color at that. From blood to peaches. The judge sure loves going on with his wild tangents. Slam. The problem with this photograph is not the paint. The problem is when you consider the layout of the basement warehouse. It turns out that something that should be there is nowhere to be seen. Well, Mr. Wright. What is supposed to be in this picture instead of the paint stains?
A certain statue.
Yeah. The supervisor of the treasure exhibit stated the following.
Well, there's a good reason for that. On the day of the crime, around noon, the golden statue just got 10 feet away from the mountain training hall. I realized that the statue would be the perfect size for covering up the paint stains. That's why I put it where you first saw it.
Slam? I myself was there at the night the theft took place and saw the statue in that spot. If this picture was truly taken on that night, then that statue should have been there.
But when I went there the day after the theft, that statue of the old bag was sitting in the corner.
Perhaps it was somehow pushed there accidentally? Your Honor, the statue is slightly larger than yourself and quite heavy. It would take more than an accidental push to move it that distance.
In that case, can you prove it? Can you give us the rhyme and reason as to why that statue was moved that night?
Can you do it, Nick?
Never mind who moved it. The real question is, why did they move it? Well, Mr. Wright, I hope you are prepared with your answer. Now then, who was the one that moved the golden statue on the night of the crime? It was this guy.
Same fucker.
The one who moved the statue is none other than... Look at me. Yeah, look at me. Come now, Sir Lawyer. There you go again with one of your strange delusions. Mr. Wright, what basis do you have for your strange delusions? It's very simple. The witness was the only one in the basement warehouse that night. That is indeed very simple. However, why would I want to move a heavy golden statue? The reason for moving this golden statue? Here's where our battle really begins. Well, Mr. Wright, what reason did the witness have to move that statue? The reason can be found here in this photograph. Look at me. You pretended to be Master to Mask to create an alibi by showing that you were at Lordly Taylor that night. But this photograph contains a single fatal flaw. If the statue had been there, your lie would be exposed like cheap film at a drugstore. That is why you moved the statue. A single fatal flaw?
Interesting theory. Please enlighten us. Just where in this picture does this lie exist?
A damn timestamp.
Where's the date?
Naturally, the lie in this photograph is the timestamp. What did you mean? Slam. I'll tell you exactly what I mean. On the night of the question, Look at Me went to KB security and murdered King Bullard. Therefore, it's obvious. It would have been impossible for him to have been at Lordly Taylor at this time. But what does this have to... What does that have to do with the statue being moved? Remember, if you will, Your Honor. When was the statue placed besides the warehouse door? Well...
The statue was taken down to the warehouse on the day of the crime, and it was placed there in order to cover up the paint.
Exactly. Look at Me had already decided on the time when he was going to kill the victim, and so in order to create an alibi for that time, he took this picture days before the murder took place.
What the?
Of course, the statue hadn't been brought down to the basement warehouse yet. Oh, so on the day of the crime, Mr. Atme must have been quite nervous. As nervous as a long-tailed cat in a rocking chair factory, so to speak. Why? Because something that wasn't supposed to be there had been brought down and placed where it wasn't supposed to be. Slam. And that is why Look at Me had to move the statue on the night of the murder. He did it to make the room match with the way it had been in this photo. Hold on. Mr. Abbey, is this true? What moment, Your Honor? Have you forgotten this? What's that? The data for the basement warehouse computer. According to this, the camera did indeed go off on the night of the crime. It's true that the camera had been set up by the Lordly Taylor staff. However, the program used to manage that data was yours. That alone would have allowed you to tamper with the data.
Well,
Hold on. Mr. Gato, what is the meaning of this? Gato, I warned you without making me wait. Now put the coffee down.
my 11th cup. I've promised to drink no more than 17 during a trial. Which means I'm still good till the last drop.
I'm sure this line was used in some fucking porno or some shit.
Obviously.
However, the defense has a very good point.
A good point? So what? We are all but travelers on the road of infinite points.
I think you got your points mixed up with your order.
So, you say this photograph was taken ahead of time? And that the statue was moved in order to make it match? That's a very interesting idea. However, there's one point that can't be denied.
Which is?
That it's only a possibility. Men that are trapped by the change of maybe can never reach their dreams.
That's very true. No way! Don't fall for that, Your Honor!
Hey, Mr. Damask.
Yes!
If there's no funny business in your actions as Master Damask, there should be no problem with you telling us your strategy. So let's hear it.
Yes. Please provide this quote with your testimony about your plan to steal the sacred urn. Savary, I'm back to my old self. I first received a request from no dictator about 20 days ago. The urn was placed in a box, and Savary, it's gone. It was then sent to the warehouse. Hence, I was actually unable to see the urn for myself until the day of the crime. I knew it was an extremely valuable treasure, so I sent my card 10 days beforehand. I then handled security by myself to ensure that my crime would go smoothly. At last, I held the urn in my hands for the first time at 1 a.m. on October 12th.
That's pretty much all the stuff we've heard before, isn't it?
Yeah, but we'll find the hidden truth hidden between the nuggets of new information he gave.
Seriously?
Witness, are you sure there are no mistakes this time? Safari. Anyway then, Mr. Wright, you will begin your cross-examination. Ah, this one's pretty simple.
One of the points is pretty simple, yeah.
Tell the day of the crime.
This is bullshit.
That's bullshit. So here's your calling card for this shit. Hold on. Objection. Mr. Atme, if you really are Master the Mask, then you would also wrote this calling card, correct? Oh, but of course.
Is there a problem with that calling card?
Allow me to read a passage from the calling card that Master the Mask had written. Take good care of the speckled urn. Now, the speckled here surely refers to this pink pattern on the sacred urn. Yes, that is true, but so what? Truth be told, there is no way that Master the Mask could have known about this pattern. What do you mean? This big spotted pattern on the urn is actually nothing more than paint stains. Paint stains? And these stains did not appear, Slam, until after the urn has been taken to Lordly Taylor.
I'm not finding this joke to be very funny, Mr. Wright.
The date of the sacred urn was taken to the warehouse. The urn was broken due to a human error, or should I say, a sexy, error-prone humor. And that's when the pink paint got on the urn. God damn it, I have an urge to say Pink Panther with this fucking...
You can't be serious.
And yet this calling card clearly mentions the paint pattern, Slam. Which means Detective Atme had seen the urn long before this crime ever took place. In fact, he saw it when this fake photo was taken. And because this photo is a fake, Slam, your alibi for the night of the murder no longer holds water.
You look at me.
Witness, do you have anything to say for yourself? Alright, that did it. He's broken.
Nick, I think it's still a little early for a victory.
But I just wanted to pose like this. Okay, and, huh? He has a, he has,
Huh.
he has a knack for celebrating too early.
It's so sad. No one has any conviction these days.
Good conviction, you say?
Yesterday, we all decided unanimously that this man was Master the Mask. And now, we're calling him a murderer. You don't think we're being a tad fickle?
That's a good point. No, wait, don't vote for that too, Your Honor.
You see that look at me was the one who killed Kane Bullard? Then let me ask you this. Why would he do that?
An excellent point. Motive, Mr. Wright. Motive. Might you, my merry murderous motive manifest?
Nick, he's getting his second win.
I'm about to break my second wind right now. You've prepared an alibi and pin on this crime around the light, you say? Then he must have a very strong motive for murder.
The only one with any motive we've seen so far is Ron the Light. Isn't that right, detective?
Indeed. According to my own research, the boy's motive is clear. Without a motive, it's nearly impossible to prove guilt in the murder case. Now then, maybe you can enlighten us to what the defendant's motives were. Thank you, serial timer. They're doing everything they can to make Ron look suspicious. Despite our lack of hard information, this may be our only chance.
For sure he'll slip up.
I, look at me, had no points of contact with the victim whatsoever. King Bullard decided to investigate Master the Mask and simply mistook who he was. It was Mr. Bullard who wrote the blackmail letter and sent it to Ron Delight. And it was again Mr. Bullard who had harbored a grudge against Mr. Delight for his betrayal. Mr. Bullard's mistake is quite excusable. The defendant truly believes he is Master the Mask. That is why Mr. Delight saw it and fit to kill King Bullard. Truly a tragedy. So the victim, King Bullard, blackmailed the defendant.
This is the blackmail letter found in the defendant's apartment. Handwriting confirmed that Mr. Bullard was indeed the one who wrote the letter.
But what? Oh, we learned something. Shit. Very well, Mr. Wright. Begin your cross-examination. Oof, motive for murder. That should be a simple one too. Yeah, this one. Present the blackmail letter. About the blackmail letter.
'Cause yeah, how does he know about this?
Objection. Point. Mind if I ask you a few questions, Mr. Detective Admin? Well, if it's just a few, I guess it's alright. When you said that this letter was addressed to Ron Delight, I couldn't help but notice one major contradiction. Contradiction?
I don't know where a walking contradiction like you gets off saying things like that.
You're the one to talk.
At times like these, men are made to express themselves with their fists. Why don't you show us what you've got there, Junior?
Indeed, turn the man up, Mr. Wright. Show us the contradiction evidence in the content of the blackmail letter. It's the newspaper clipping. Where is it? It's not it. Oh, it's right here.
I think this is the one, yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Take a good look at this newspaper clipping. It contains a picture of the tier Anemone. That's not to be confused with Pokemon, the stolen jewel. What about it? The problem is the jewel's color.
Color? I'm not much for discussing color myself.
Yup. Foreshadowing. According to the clipping, the color with the stolen jewel was blue. However, in the blackmail letter, a totally different jewel is mentioned. I'll take that red diamond you received the other day. Red! Slam. which means the red diamond described in the blackmail letter is not the tier anemone that Master the Mask stole at all.
And your point is, Mr. Wright, so you're trying to say that this blackmail letter was intended for someone else. That is what you're trying to say, right, Wright?
Is that what you're trying to say, right, Mr. Wright?
Well, that's what you're trying to say, right, Nick?
Why is... Yes. And why is everybody on my dick? Please. This is who Kane Buller would actually blackmailing. Should be... Look at me.
Your favorite guy of the witness stand.
Take that. Slim. Naturally, it was you, Detective Atme. Do you have some sort of basis for that claim? You have been personally involved in every single Master Mask case, and in the last case, you recovered what was stolen, and received a jewel as your reward.
A jewel?
Probably the one wrapped conspicuously around your finger. That red diamond ring. That is the diamond referred to in the letter, which means that Kane Bullard wrote that letter in order to blackmail you. My monocle. Order in the court. Order, I see.
It seems you've gone too far with your childish prank, Mr. Wright.
Uh-oh. I don't like the way he said that.
Kane Bullard blackmailing, look at me? Are you for real?
Yes, I am.
Nick, come on, stand up to him.
Then answer me this. The blackmail letter contains the following passage. If you don't want your identity revealed to the world...
Yes, it certainly does.
Kane Bullard threatened to make Look at Me's identity public knowledge. An identity he wanted to keep a secret. So just what was that identity?
Atme killed Kane Bullard because he was afraid of his secret becoming known. What was the identity he wanted to keep secret?
That is what it comes all down to, Nick.
The identity that Luke Atme wanted to so desperately keep secret was his identity as a
blackmailer.
An ace detective.
Snuggy! Of course that's what he did!
God damn it. Luke Atme was a blackmailer. Hmm?
Hey now.
You're an
isn't
all-star?
that a little different from what you've been saying? You said that Kane Bullard was the one blackmailing Look at Me. Are you saying that Atme was blackmailing someone else on top of that?
You have to admit, that sounds a little odd.
It's not odd. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Kane Bullard was blackmailing Luke Atme. But Rondelay was also being blackmailed by a certain someone. So did you start to receive blackmail letters starting after this incident?
Yes, just a few days after the tear of Ivanon East. After that, I started getting the plans in the mail. I received plans for some very kind person. Incredibly detailed plans.
Detailed plans? In which case, that would mean that Rondelay was actually Master the Mask. That is what we are claiming. Someone else came up with the plans, and had Mr. Delight steal his targets for him. And that someone was none other than Luke Atme. Shh! Silence! Now I see. It's all becoming clear. What is? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Careless, with a tendency to jump into conclusions. Am I wrong? How did you... You say that I, Look at Me, was blackmailing Ron Delight. In which case, I would be naturally know all about his relation to Master the Mask. Well, yes. Rondelite started receiving plans from his second crime onward, correct? Which means I learned of his identity when he committed the first crime. Good point. You certainly couldn't have blackmailed him otherwise. What covers that?
In that case, let's see some hot better evidence. During the first crime, how did Look at Me know that Rondelite was Masked Mask?
Let's present that. Let's shove that newspaper in his face again.
Once again.
I think I see it. See what? When you were in grade school, you received the same report card every year. Gets into a lot of mischief trying to be in the center of attention. What do you mean? This newspaper clipping has a picture of you and Rondelite in this guard uniform. It seems that Mask didn't just disappear into thin air. He just took off his outfit and then hid it in a bucket. That stuff sounds far too stupid to be true. Correct. With tricks like that, he couldn't fool a baby, let alone an ace detective. And that's why you figured it out, Mr. Adme. That's when you learned that under his mask, Mask was really Rondelite.
What the? Wasn't he supposed to be that Stardemer? Totally that. It looks like he wasn't even an ace detective. Can't believe it. That's just a slamming blackmailer. What a fraud. Trying to base himself off as an ace detective.
Why, how dare you expose me like that? Why, I mean, I never blackmailed anyone in my life. I'm a famous and proud ace detective, and also Mask. Why can't you understand that? I'm afraid you are neither a proud thief nor an ace detective. You're a blackmailer and a murderer. That is your true identity. Why, you... How can you not miss that big mouth of yours? Not can you compare it to my Jesus. You're just so jealous, so goon, discreet me, intimidate. Ace detective cannot handle blackmail or other threats. It's enough to one make me laugh.